Hi guys, welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to talk about Blake Lively and how this whole cancel culture works. And I just, when I started making, trying to analyze her behavior and going, seeing all her videos and everything, I realized how much hate there was towards her. And it kind of shocked me because you know why it shocks me? It shocks me because why do we care? I do these videos, and I'm going to continue doing these videos analyzing celebrities, but I do it, and also I'd love to analyze movies, but I do it not necessarily like to bring someone down or to bring someone up. I'm just trying to explain their behavior. That's really it. What shocks me is all the comments that I see on her social media. I see how people are trying to cancel her, and these comments, it just shows that we idealize celebrities. We kind of like put that perfect person crown on them, and then we expect them to be perfect. But the thing is, no one is perfect. And then all of a sudden they slip, or they, maybe they're in a bad mood and they were rude to someone. Maybe they just, see, people can't be people pleasers at all times. And it's okay not to be a people pleaser. In fact, people pleasers have it, how do I say this? People pleasers have a difficult life, people pleasing. People pleasers have the most aggression that's built within them. People pleasers are often the most passive aggressive people. So it just shows how we think it's not okay when someone makes a mistake. See, I'm not trying to justify her behavior. Yes, that comment wasn't nice. It's like, it's not okay. But I'm not going to sit here and, I'm going to analyze this later. But what I do want to point out is that these comments that you see here right now, disgusting behavior, girl couldn't be any further from reality, Amber Heard 2.0, etc. These comments are not okay. These people are coming from people who are also who are not okay, because it's funny because these comments are just as passive aggressive. Actually, what passive aggressive? These comments are quite aggressive. They're very judgmental. They're very angry, and you're being angry at a person who you don't even know. You want to label them as bad, because then when you label someone as bad, it's easier to label yourself as good. I'm an angel here. No, you're not. Every one of us, including myself, we all have good and bad, and it's okay to have good and bad. It's okay for people to make mistakes, and it's okay for people to slip. It might not be okay for people to be rude, but then again, that could have been her way of trying to protect herself, in a way, protect something. So I'm here to it's important to understand that, I'm not going to sit here labeling her bad because she was aggressive. She was trying to protect her boundaries. And this is what I see in Blake Lively's interviews, that I feel like she's being quiet. She's constantly trying to protect her space. It feels like she had enough. I'm not gonna attach any personality disorders to her, because I don't feel like there is. I feel like, yes, she has certain traits. I'm definitely gonna get into the interviews first where she has been rude, and it's a fact that she's been rude, but I'm gonna try to explain what are the possibilities and what exactly happened there, in my opinion, in my understanding. One of the things that I wanted to mention was that she has obviously grown up in a family where their parents were not very harsh on her. A lot of interviews and a lot of situations, she's not politically correct. She doesn't have that. It's almost like she doesn't know what's right and what's not right to say, especially in the interview where she started talking about, the movie is about, the victim, survivors, abuse, physical abuse, domestic abuse, right? And so she talks about flowers and things like that, and it's just like, and one thing I noticed in all of her interviews is that she does not care. She does not care She's definitely not a people pleaser. 100% she's not. And she thinks that she's trying to joke, she's trying to be sarcastic, but that sarcasm is, I see it as passive aggressiveness. And her jokes, I didn't really found them that funny. She was never probably told no. And so she was, you know, I have a feeling she doesn't even have necessarily any severe, like, she doesn't have any severe traumas. She just doesn't. She's very, like, okay, you know, she's actually okay. And when I started doing this whole Blake Lively video, I was thinking to myself, I was like, wow, it's just so much more exciting to analyze someone's trauma, or I analyze someone who has had trauma, because it almost gives a person depth of character. It gives that person a certain personality. It's almost like she doesn't have that depth. And let me tell you about it. I have a friend, this acquaintance of mine. She's never like worried about anything. She's never, nothing ever bothers her. She has a very strong sense of, like, you know, self-esteem. She's never been criticized. She's never been abused. She's never been, like, you know, her family preyed on her basically. And so to me, these kind of people, I almost put them in a separate box container, because these are kind of like healthy people, you know. They're not, if I would call, like, they're neurotic. They're not borderline or psychotic, right? Then by neurotic, I mean they're normal. They're pretty normal. And they don't have these severe, like, mental states. They don't have anxiety. They don't have depression. They don't have painful emotions. They don't feel emptiness within. They're just pretty normal, you know. And I've been always fascinated by these people, because it's like, on the one hand, it's like, you know, on the one hand, I feel like they're not deep enough and a bit boring. But on the other hand, they're not victims. They're not victims. They're not gonna, their reactions are gonna be perfectly normal. They, you know, I'm not saying that her reactions are perfectly normal. Yes, there is passive aggressiveness. There is some kind of, like, sense of, you know, self-entitled. And so look, let's take a look at the interview.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna put yours because it doesn't go with my outfit, but I will wear it later. Thank you. Oh my God, I'm gonna put it on.
Do you see? So I see nothing wrong with this. I don't understand why everyone is, like, being so judgmental. It's perfectly fine. She has an outfit for the day. She really loves her outfits. She has this obsession with how she looks. That, I think, for her, it's sort of like actually identity. She'll dress well. She has the money to dress well. She has the occasions to dress well. And I think if all of us were in the same position as she is, we'd probably be doing the same thing. We would think, what outfit am I going to wear? Right? So for her she said thank you. There's nothing wrong for not wearing that bracelet. Absolutely nothing wrong, you know, not wearing the bracelet and just saying that she'll wear that later. She acknowledges it, you know, and they're comparing it to this other woman who wore the bracelet straight away. To me, that is people pleasing. To me, that is like, look at me, I'm good, I'm gonna wear my fan's bracelet. If I don't want to wear something, I'm not going to wear it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, but I'm not going to wear it. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong. I feel like everyone who's editing these videos are massive victims who are just trying to nitpick on her like crazy. Like, victimhood 2.0. Seriously. Let's listen to this part here.
And they're going to want to tell you about their life. So if someone understands the themes of this movie, comes across you in public, and they want to really talk to you, what's the best way for them to be able to talk to you about this? How would you recommend they go about it?
Like asking for, like, my address or my phone number or, like, my location share. Or I could just location share you, and then we could and It Ends With Us is in theaters now.
So she either did not understand the question, or if she did, that's her being sarcastic. To me, I find it really funny, but it's almost like she was saying it for real. So, okay, here is my theory. I personally think that that question might have not been very correct, because she's an actress. She's not a political activist or human rights activist. She is just an actress, and she always talks about her acting. She never goes into her personal life. Very rarely she goes into personal life, like cookies and and all these other things, but she never really goes deep into things. It's not like, you know, the Baldoni guy, or Baldoni, who, you know, who takes the cause and then he just completely like dwells in it and like tries to use it for his advantage. I think he's using these causes for his advantage. While this girl, she doesn't care. Like, she literally does not care. And you know what? And that's okay. Is it bad that she doesn't care about? This is what I'm telling you about people who might have not gone through trauma. It's almost like they don't have, people who've gone through trauma, they have heightened sense of like empathy, right? But people who haven't gone through severe trauma or trauma, some trauma in psychoanalysis, where we learn that even being born is traumatic because you come out of the womb, which is very warm, and then you get out and you have to breathe in the air, and then your lungs are hurting. So it's trauma in a way, right? But I'm not talking about this trauma. I'm just talking about trauma in general. And so she just doesn't care. And you know what? I think it's perfectly fine. She is just an actress. She's nothing else. Therefore, why talk to her about these things? Yes, she shows a very low, she's kind of low on the empathy, but I also don't believe that she completely lacks it. It's almost like this too much egocentric behavior, egocentrism, and she almost doesn't see others around her. You know, it's just her husband and her kids, and it's almost like that's it. Maybe her family as well. But yeah, like there's no, and see, and what's interesting is, to me, how I see it, I think it's okay. I think it's perfectly fine. Like, she doesn't have to care. I'm sorry, but like, okay, you can go through horrible traumatic things, but why would you come up to an actress on the street talking about your trauma? Think about it. Like, so yeah, guys, like I it is funny. I find it so funny. Like, I find it hilarious that she's just like on the street, share my address, location. I also think that this whole she, by the way, if you notice, she's always acting sarcastic every time that someone asks her these kind of questions. When someone is trying to like ask her something personal, it's like she starts becoming passive aggressive. She starts to protect her boundaries. I think that's her way to draw her boundaries. And that's perfectly normal too. You know, yes, there's less empathy, but there's not like she is horrible. Like, all this people write about her. She is this, it ends with her. Like, why? I don't know. I don't understand what's the point of like dehumanizing celebrities, because amazing. I was just reading this book, actually, really great book. It's in Russian, however, but anyway, it's about the psychology of evil. And there's something very interesting I read, that the moment that, so let me just read this part real quick. So when the person stops thinking of themselves, of an individual, like I am as an individual, and starts to identify themselves with a group of people, an anonymous group of people, then that person starts to feel like he doesn't respond for his own behavior, okay? And therefore the I think it's called ventromedial prefrontal cortex becomes has lower activity, and therefore that is connected with aggression and a social antisocial behavior. And that decreased activity in this part of the brain, it leads to dehumanizing. It leads to with fear and anger. And so I don't know if I explained this right. I don't know if I ever explained anything right, but what I'm trying to say is that we cannot dehumanize these celebrities just because she said something wrong, and then all of a sudden everyone wears a white coat and like, I'm this little bunny, white bunny, I'm the good one, let's put someone down. Like, I went to, and that is such aggressive behavior. It's unbelievable how much aggression I see in these comments with to do with celebrities and all their conflicts. He's bad, no, she's bad. And I'm like, My goodness, like, really, we need to think more about how we are instead of trying to like put them down, laugh at them. As an adequate human being, you should not feel anything, nothing. And this is the reason why I've created this channel. This is the reason why I'm going to keep making videos, is because I want to eliminate victim mentality. I would love to see people thrive and be happy, and not care about who fucked up and who didn't. Do you get what I mean? Let's look at this clip real quick.
Wait, can you say hi to Steph, please, my girlfriend?
Actually, I feel like these two are connected, so let's take a look at another one. I feel like they're very connected, and I'll explain why.
Congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump? Did you guys love wearing those kind of clothes that you...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, working in
Everyone wants to
digital.
talk about the clothes, but I wonder if they would ask the men about the clothes.
I would.
This is a moment where she tells her fans in the middle of the interview she goes like that. Not sure why it's not loading.
I don't see the problem here.
And this is how her husband reacts. I don't see the problem here. She clearly was nice to everyone and told the fans she would come and see them soon. You can watch the video on your own. It's actually, okay, here is my take on it. So how are those two clips similar? First of all, I feel like she hates invasion of privacy, invasion of space. Actually, I remembered another clip. Let's take a look at that one. So my take on this interview and the other interviews that I showed you is that people seem to be like, these fans, they're really invading privacy, and it's not okay. I mean, fans are fans for a reason, but you should not be invading another person's privacy. Screaming, like, you know how that guy who kept screaming and shouting and screaming, Blake, 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 or whatever he was screaming, it's just not okay. And therefore, she shuts him down with a passive-aggressive joke or sarcastic joke, saying you should leave him, haha. So she clearly, and here with the fans is the same thing. She's doing an interview. Why would just a group of people would just start screaming and interrupting the interview? To me, that's perfectly normal behavior. She did tell them like, hey, I'll come back. Like, she did say something like she showed that she will come back to them later. Imagine it would have been, she would have handled it differently. She would have gone up to them and said, guys, I'm gonna come to you later. Like, it just doesn't make any sense, because everyone would be screaming like crazy, right? So I think her reaction was perfectly normal, and that people are even shaming her for that reaction. It's not okay. It's not okay. It's just not okay. She has, another thing is that, like, she has boundaries, and it's good for her to have boundaries, like for many other people, and not have other people cross those boundaries. And with the interview with that lady, and this interview, right? First of all, how strange that it happened 4 months ago. Whatever. I'm not here. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a detective to find this out. I don't care. But what I care about is that, okay, so first of all, it's almost like I feel like it's about boundaries for her. It's about privacy for her.
You have a baby at home, and you have a baby on the way. Congratulations.
What makes you say that?
The shark told me.
You know you don't ever say that to a woman.
You're not supposed to say that to
So
her?
my mom actually went up to someone that she hadn't seen in years. She goes, oh, congratulations, and you're so far along.
Oh,
She's
no.
like, I'm not. Even a little bit far along.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's really rough.
Yeah, it was tough. So
In this interview, what she says, and you know how funny this is, that a lot of the times this interview has been cut into pieces, and so they cut out her explanation as to why she was slightly off in the beginning, okay? And the explanation is that in her mind, okay, we all have different perceptions of reality, okay? For someone, one thing is okay, for someone else it's not okay, all right? Something is bad, something is not bad. And it's amazing how media just picked it up and completely picked it into pieces and called her a rude person. Yes, she could have reacted differently. Yes, she could have said, hey, you actually cannot say this to a woman, because that way you're kind of like, you could be fat shaming her. What if she's not pregnant, right? What if you do that mistake? But see, the same thing has triggered her in that very first interview as well, right? So this lady, I think she is a victim, okay? And when you look at her, you look at that poor lady, she has this like see, even when you look at her, she has this look on her face, like a, I don't know, like a victim look on her face. Like she doesn't look very strong. Like she doesn't look like she has good self-esteem. She just looks a bit like she has these sad eyes. She's just not very well, I think. And so to me, she's a victim straight up, because if someone responded to me in a way that she did, like right there, I would have asked, is there a problem? I would have, if I really didn't like it, stood up and left. But in this case, you ask them, is there a problem? Is there a problem or not? You know what I mean? Like, but she ate it. She just completely like took it in. Here she's getting all mad. And that madness, that the fact that she didn't stood up for herself, the fact that she didn't say what's wrong with it, that's why she became a massive victim, creating all these other videos about my nightmare interview made me want to quit my job. Like, girl, like, woman, stand up, say something back. You're the interviewer. You should be like switched on as in order to, make the interview go really well. But I guess I think I should maybe become an interviewer and interview celebrities. And if someone would speak to me like that, I would instantly put them back into their place. Or I would ask them, hey, what's up? What's going on? Why are you acting all passive aggressive? Tell me, explain to me, why is that? So yeah, that's my take on it. To me, it just feels like she doesn't like when people comment anything personal, about anything personal. She's always very like, she tries to set boundaries with everyone around her. And I completely understand that, because she is constantly surrounded by people who are just putting their nose into her business. The last but not least, she gives a feeling of this highly energetic person who is constantly on the go, almost like ADHD like. She definitely, in that video, she called her colleagues monkeys, but like she constantly jokes, okay? It's not okay to call your colleagues monkeys. A way of living, okay? With her husband, they're known to like joke on each other, joke on one another, and everything is just very lighthearted. Everything about her is just, it's like she doesn't care. She jokes around, and she doesn't care about all these like, issues, like big issues, humanitarian or like human rights. So, she does say that she's like a feminist and this and that, but I find it really strange for her to be a feminist and not respond to, like, when they talk about this movie. And maybe, I don't know, something, maybe in the contract they told her to only speak about the florals and the clothes and whatever. Maybe it was in the contract that she couldn't talk about these issues, but it just feels like in general, as a person, she would not be the person to start speaking on these very deep, important topics like domestic abuse. Like, that's huge. It cannot be taken lightheartedly. It just doesn't go with her character. All these deep, heavy, painful, things that it's just like two different worlds. She's on another planet. To be honest, I don't even want to talk about the conflict, because I couldn't care less. But look, if I was to say something about their conflict, it just feels like she's not a people pleaser. If she doesn't like something, she's gonna say it. She's very straight to the point. She's pretty professional. She just only cares about acting, and that's it. She will only talk about like the acting. And it just feels like she's not the type of person who just go on talking about like personal things, because for her it's maybe like, intrusion on privacy, on her privacy. So it just feels like in that set, and Justin is more of like that person who like tries to enter your privacy. To me, at least, it feels like he's that type of person who would like wants to be in your personal space because he wants the attention. She's also the girl who wants the attention too, but in a slightly different way. She definitely takes everyone's attention on her. So imagine like two kids stuck in a playground, and they both want attention on them. It's either the conflict arose from that, partially, or the conflict also been caused by the fact that he's been trying to intrude in her privacy. And it feels like she takes her privacy very, very seriously, and like there's just little thing you say wrong, it's like, you're intruding on my privacy. Or this, I didn't look into those cases, but I just wouldn't say the reason why it's so huge now, because people love to cancel celebrities, and I just think that it's not for us to decide, really. There is court, and that's for the court to decide who's right and who's wrong, who did like misconduct, right, and who did not. And that's for the court to decide, really not for us to decide. So for my full analysis, I think this video is very important and needs to be seen as well.
A life between Can and pregnancies. I just want to make that clear, that my life and looks, there were many years that happened between this. Nobody had seen me since I was filming The Shallows, and I was, in a bathing suit and that. And then nobody saw me for, I think it was like 5 months later. I went to Cannes, and the first few looks that I wore at Cannes, you can't tell that I'm pregnant, because I am very private. I'm very protective of my children, and I don't want to share them with the world, and I feel like that starts when they're in the womb. So I just thought, I'm just going to dress like I'm not pregnant. I'm just going to wear what I would wear if I wasn't pregnant. It was sort of a neat press story, because I remember I would like show up one day and they'd be like, she's pregnant, and then the next day you'd see another dress and they're like, oh shoot, maybe she's not, maybe we misspoke. Which I also think was an interesting conversation, because like, why do we obsess over women's bodies and like what's going on? Like, if I want to say I'm pregnant, I'll say I'm pregnant. Otherwise, like, it's just me showing up on a red carpet. Like, our bodies are ever changing, ever evolving, and like, it doesn't belong to anyone else.
And there is just one more piece that I want to show you as well from this interview that I think is important.
I feel like I hadn't been on a red carpet in a while. Look at my cute little Pikachu nails by Elle Gerstein. She had these little like Pokemon balls on my nails. I was pregnant and I couldn't hide it any longer.
So she says, right, I was pregnant and I couldn't hide it any longer. Obviously, she's trying to hide her pregnancies. She doesn't want attention on her body. She doesn't want it. I don't think it's the attention on her. I think it's just the attention on her body. And also, before in this interview, she mentioned something like, it doesn't belong to anyone else. Like, her body doesn't belong to anyone else. I feel like that original interview where she was rude to the lady back, right? She was rude to her. I feel like it just got to the point where maybe the paparazzi are onto her all the time. They're constantly invading her privacy. And I feel like her keeping that pregnancy to herself, it's almost like having that sense of privacy, having that private space, like having something to her, not sharing it with the world. Because celebrities, without even probably wanting to, they're sharing things with the world. Maybe they just want to keep something to themselves. Why can't she keep that to herself? And so I think she feels bothered all the time that someone is kind of like intruding. I'm not sure, English is not my first language. Someone is intruding into her personal space. And I feel like she just wanted to keep that to herself, honestly. I'm not justifying that it was a bit, rude, but it's not like, she didn't know that interviewer couldn't get pregnant. She didn't know that. How would she know that, right? So I feel like when people comment on her body is also, imagine that you were a celebrity. Imagine that every single move you make, everyone talks about it. It's almost like your life is not yours anymore. It's almost like your life is someone else's. And that can definitely have an effect on our mental state. It can have an effect that I'm just sharing myself with the whole world when I don't want to. And to me, it's perfectly normal to protect her privacy, and also I feel like there's a touch of objectification. No, it's not sexual objectification. It's just objectification. People are objectifying her, pregnant, not pregnant. You know, look at her body, like it changed like this, and now it looks like this. Like there were certain occasions where I was objectified as well, and it didn't feel nice. It's a feeling when someone, it's almost like ignoring you as you and who you are, and just seeing you as an object to comment on. It's, you know what I earlier said, dehumanizing, that is dehumanizing, and that is not okay. So she's strongly withstanding that, and she says, if I want to say I'm pregnant, I'll say I'm pregnant. See, people are saying things for her. People are almost like, there's a lot of intrusion in her personal space. I think this is the main reason. You know, she brought, like in another interview, she said that, hey, don't say a pregnant woman, don't say a woman, like don't comment on the pregnancy, because what if she's not pregnant? I think that's just like I think it's just a cover up for how she truly feels, because I'm 100% sure that she just does not like to be objectified, and she doesn't like people intruding into her privacy. And it just got to the point where another interview, another time, there's someone else commenting on her pregnancy, and she just had enough. And she's also pregnant. You know, don't forget that, you know, women, when they're pregnant, they have hormones that are jumping up and down, or I'm not sure, I'm not a doctor to tell you what happens with the hormones, but I do know for sure that there are certain emotional changes that happen in a pregnant woman. So therefore, they can act a certain way, but it doesn't mean that, like, you know, that specific situation, she could not control her, maybe she couldn't contain her anger, and she couldn't say it in she could not say that in a better way. But she is definitely very angry about paparazzi, interviewers, everyone just objectifying and like her, all about her, like her body and pregnancy and how she looks. Well guys, it took me like 3 takes to record this video. At this point, I just want to be done and over with it, honestly. But my conclusion is, when I look at her, the conclusion is that she is like she's a child that comes from like a happy family. There's nothing crazy going on there. And you can see that she's genuinely a happy child. But it also reminds me of that show where they bring those kids, where they send those kids, like privileged kids, to South Africa. It just kind of reminds them when these kids, they finally experience real life, and they feel shock, and they're in denial, and they just like go through all these stages. And it seems to me that she didn't really go through anything horrific, anything that would have changed and affected her personality. She, of course, when there's no, imagine, like, I think there's a saying, when, you know, the diamond, the way they make diamonds is they have to, like, you know, to keep putting pressure on these diamonds. And so when the diamonds, there's constant pressure on the diamond becomes really beautiful and shiny, right? But this is exactly what happens with our personalities, I feel like. This is exactly what happens with especially when you would have gone through certain things in life, and you would have realized, and you would have come out of it you didn't stay in a victim mentality, but you came out of it as a strong, empowered individual. You know, that's when these are the true diamonds, you know. But I feel like she didn't see the hardship. There's not enough depth to the character. That's why she can't relate. She can't relate to the pain of people, because she hasn't experienced it herself. And again, that's fine. But I think as an actress, maybe you should try and learn about experience about the people. You know, maybe you should. Of course, she learns and she plays the roles. Obviously, she knows, but it almost feels like she doesn't really connect. She plays the role really well, but she doesn't. It's almost like maybe she doesn't emotionally connect. she's not one of those people who's gonna like get affected by something and feel affected by something. And I think this whole story with sexual allegations of like being harassed, sexually harassed, it's her boundaries are so sensitive almost. It's seeing the hardship in life, and therefore she's very happy. And to be honest, you can't blame her. You can't blame anyone for having a wonderful childhood and a happy life and an easy life. You can't blame these people. We got to be happy for them, you know? We got to be happy for them. And thank God that these people exist. Where she was rude, she probably doesn't even realize herself that she was rude because she's that oblivious. And for her, it was just like a mere reaction. It was a reaction to something that she didn't like. And so hopefully I explained well enough in this video to what it could have possibly been And anyway, I'm just going to conclude this video. Once again, going to remind you that these videos that I make are for fun, for entertaining purposes. Everything that I say doesn't necessarily have to be truth and considered truth. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this one, and let me know your thoughts. I just wish I saw more of like a thoughts in terms of like if there's something that you saw that I might have not seen. Like that's what I'm interested in seeing. You know, something that I might have overlooked. You know, that's what I'd be excited to see. Anyway, see you guys in another video, and bye.